Well, thank you, Ibrahim Danamidu, for that background report. And we already have our guest seated in the studio to discuss the Uromi incident and Governor Okpebholo's peace moves. First, let me introduce Kashim Afebwa, political stalwart. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Also, we have in the studio Brigadier General Sani Kuka Shika Usman, a former army spokesperson. You are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
All right.
All right. Let me also introduce Dr. Kabir Adamo, who is the Become Security CEO, Become Security and Intelligence Limited, and of course, is an expert in risk management. Thank you very much for joining us.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yes. We also have here Barrister Lawrence Alobe. He's a very familiar face. Of course, if you're in Abuja, you all know, or everyone will know former CP. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Well, let's just kickstart this conversation probably with Dr. Kabiru Adamo, a security and management risk expert. It's a sad incident, and can you just maybe give us some background or information into the killing, just in case, you're aware of it, and what do you think actually led to the incident?
Okay, from the little that we've gathered, and like your reporter did mention, these were travelers who had begun their journey somewhere in Rivers State. They were in a company vehicle, Dangote vehicle, truck, probably coming somewhere in the north. It could have been Obajana or possibly even Kano, even though the route does not really speak that they were heading to Kano. So anyways, somewhere in Uromi on the highway, they were intercepted, possibly on the basis of intelligence suggesting that some criminals were on the move. And because they were hunters, they had guns, on them. The little that we had, the driver and one other person was arrested, and they were handed over to the police. But then in between that arrest of the driver and the person, some form of altercation occurred between the other passengers within the vehicle, the purported hunters. And the result, unfortunately, is that 16 of them were incinerated by the vigilantes and possibly other residents in the area. And of course, it was captured on some form of telephone device. It was uploaded on social media, and I think the rest is history. The fact that they were incinerated did evoke sentiments in a lot of, especially Muslims. And for the simple reason that in Islam, fire cannot be used as a means to torture or to kill. The incident for me was a reflection of mob action, jungle justice. It is also a reflection of perhaps the distrust in our public security agencies, because ordinarily it would have been for them to arrest those persons, hand them over to the appropriate security department for prosecution, but then that didn't happen. They now meted out justice on them. Several government departments have reacted, starting from the Edo State government. The Edo State governor has been quite active. We learned he was not in the state when the incident happened. He quickly returned, visited the scene of the incident, instituted a committee, and as a result of the preliminary report from that committee, he has taken some actions, including the suspension of the leader of that particular vigilante group, as well as suspending the activities of all, especially what he termed as illegal vigilante groups. In my opinion, all vigilante groups are quote unquote illegal, because the federal constitution, as at today, recognizes only federal security in agencies, ministries, departments, and agencies, even though we do have a proliferation of vigilantes across the country. The president, too, has released a statement in very clear terms condemning the incident, directing security agencies to go after the perpetrators, thought leaders, political leaders, name them, they've issued statements. From the north, where the victims of the incident emanated from, we've seen several statements condemning, calling for calm, and all of that. There was perhaps an attempt at reprisal attack, after the incident, based on the sensibilities that were evoked as a result of the incident. But I think the nerves have been calmed now, based on the actions of a lot of leaders across the country. So on a general note, I think this is where we are at the moment.
All right, Dr. Kabir, thank you. I've heard a lot of people ask questions, were they really hunters? Why did they have to go through, that access to get to Kano, and so on and so forth? But the deed has been done. All those do not matter anymore. What matters now is how do we, douse the tension? How do we, calm, the nerves of those who have been affected? Everybody, I don't think there's anyone who has not condemned, the gruesome murder in this country, the way it has happened. That's why I want to bring in the political analyst first, Mr. Okpebholo. Steps have been, taken by the governor, governor of Edo State and all that. From your perspective, are these steps, what impact? Because we've seen, some youths now, make some threats, some provocative statements. We need to douse these tensions. Can you just evaluate the steps so far and, what impact do you think they might have?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity of inviting me. I think when any incident occurs, you have to first and foremost ensure that you bring in some level of sanity before you begin to even interrogate the real cause of it. Because there are quite a number of questions unanswered which the security agencies are profiling to ensure that they're able to get to the root of the matter. But even beyond that, our law says even when you catch a man at the point of robbery, you can't kill him there. Even when you catch him, kidnapping, you can't kill him. He has to be made to face. That's what civilized society is for. So this idea of jungle justice is what people are frowning at, number one. And secondly, from the investigations, maybe when they are done, we'll be able to understand. But I want to commend the governor for the steps he has taken. I've read and I've watched quite a number of amateur videos, people abusing him, thinking that he has become slavish with the steps he has taken. But I think people must realize that a responsible government or governor must first and foremost ensure that he's able to nip the crisis in the bud so that it does not escalate. So the escalation, steps are quite welcome. First, it was in Abuja here when the incident happened. And by 4 a.m., the preceding morning, he left by road from Abuja to Uromi with some party leaders and all of that. He got there around 8:30 thereabout, and he was able to carry out on the spot assessment. And he also took immediate steps, suspending the chairman of the Edo Vigilante, of the security corps and all that. There's a difference between illegal vigilante and the one that's illegal. The Edo security corps is actually established by law of the State Assembly.
Okay.
So the Inspector General of Police, before the election, proscribed it. That particular body, yes. But after the election, because of the issues that came after the elections, they did proscribe it. So that's why the man who was appointed the chairman is actually a retired commissioner of police, Ibadan. So they've set it up, and that body is the one that is helping to provide some level of community information to the task force that was set up, the security task force made up of police, DSS, and soldiers. So, and the governor provided vehicles, distributed over 50 vehicles, Hilosys, to ensure that he's able to beef up the security of the state. We inherited a state that was actually heavily polarized, speaking security-wise. And too many altercations, prior to the election, so led to all kinds of proliferation of arms and what have you. And so it was the responsibility of the governor to ensure that he's able to rein in some of these persons and also engage the services of police, DSS, and even the military to combat quite a number of these issues. So the Uromi incident is actually a fallout of bottled up anger over the spate of kidnapping from that particular axis of the state, because that is a major artery from southeast, south-south, coming to the north. It must pass through Uromi, pass through Auchi, my village, Okpebholo, Okene, then before you start proceeding. So the issue of kidnapping has been so prevalent that even the governor, when he was not even a governor, had to be part and parcel of the local security arrangement by buying Sienna vehicles and what have you. Okay. So becoming a governor now, he felt that there's a greater need for them to put eyes on you. That was the reason why he suspended the chairman of the security corps, because he felt that they should put more attention in that particular axis to ensure that they nip the crisis in the bud. Kidnapping has been so frequent in that area, and killings. And people have also been complaining from that axis that their farm produce are being eaten up by cattle. So those kind of background are what, unleash that kind of mayhem, which is very, very unpardonable, so to speak. And
so did the escalation, process you were talking?
Yeah. The governor has, has visited Kano. When he went to Uromi, he came back that same day and he flew to Kano, met with the governor, his counterpart governor, and took a step further by going to the village of some of the victims.
Even promised to pay compensation.
Yeah. Some of it has been paid anyway. And just to try to ensure that he's able to, douse the tension. Because there are quite, mob action are usually not definable when it happens, and they start spontaneously without even people planning it. And there are people who get involved without even know what people are fighting for. And so if he didn't take the step he has taken, perhaps you will see a reprisal attack, maybe in Kano, against non-indigens, maybe Igbos, maybe they just call them Yamiri and whatever you say, whether we are Edo, nobody will know, and they will start the fight, and that can also lead to a concatenation of other issues, killings, and what have you. I think the governor must be commended, for the step he has taken. I personally called to commend him 2 days back. I said, the kind of energy you have shown in the last 3 days, you have been on the road. I've tried to see him like 3-4 times. He's been on the road. He tells me he's coming from Kano. As he's coming from Kano, he's going to Edo. He's coming from Edo. He's been meeting quite a number of opinion leaders and leaders of thought. He has met with the National Security Advisor. He's met with quite a number of, just to ensure that they're able to nip the crisis in the bud.
At least from his perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, let's Brigadier General Kukashika, talk to us on the escalation steps, because in matters like this, like he said, the first thing is to, take measures to de-escalate tension, so that, there's no reprisal attack and innocent people who are not even involved, who do not know anything about what has happened, don't get hurt. And then the families of the victims, also see that, okay, this is not, meant to annihilate a particular, section of the country. What are the basic, the escalation steps now, apart from the step that the governor has taken?
I think there are quite a number of them. And beyond that, before I even talk about that, I would like to look at it from the perspective that when Dr. Kabir was talking about lack of trust in the security agencies, but I think this particular incident has brought to the fore one burning issue, the relationship between the components of Nigerian society. It is one thing, to secure your environment, but, killing those 16 in the manner they were killed brought to the fore the level of hatred among the components of Nigerian societies. This is someone that is at your mercy, and you went ahead and, murder him in such most brutal manner. The level of hatred must have been unprecedented. Now, what brought about all these things? But the good thing is that we are talking about measures being taken. Of course, the previous speakers have mentioned it, particularly Okpebholo, and one has to further commend the Edo State Governor for the action he has taken. Not only him, also his counterpart in Kano, and all other well-meaning Nigerians that went out of their way to show understanding, calm nerves. And I was so surprised that even the measures taken by the state government, that the people of Uromi and surrounding environment, they are even afraid. Now their relationship, the average northerner is more or less like a king now, because the state is now has shown a greater sense of belonging to the people. That here you are, a stranger in a particular environment, and people were commiserating with you. They are even afraid that whether they might be picked and all the rest of the things. So and what brought about most of all these issues is the simple fact that the issue of reward and punishment is more or less absent. People do all manner of things and get away with it. But there is a radical departure now, going to the scene, visiting Kano, and going to see the families of the victim and offer to even pay compensation. I always have problem with the issue of the word compensation, because do you actually put a price to human life? No, you can't. But at least showing those kind of compassion, making effort to bring succor, I think it's most commendable. So, but beyond that, again, we have to look at, just like he made mention of people denigrating the governor and all the rest of the thing. I think those lone voices should not be allowed to prevail. This is how it is supposed to be, and it is even a shame that our state governors have to wait for an incident of this nature to visit their counterpart, or they meet during the council of state meetings. No, there should have been visitation relationship, because I kept on wondering, whenever you have an opportunity to attend seminars, conferences, and all the rest, you cultivate relationship. So they have been meeting with each other. Have they been visiting? Have they been commissioning projects, regardless of political beliefs and all the rest? These are the building blocks for national unity, so that people will be given sense of belonging. Then the second aspect is the fact that I know, even though your state is the most do I say cosmopolitan, because you have almost all the components of Nigerian society in Edo State. No, so how did you, why don't you take advantage of that? Even in the compositions of the vigilante and all the rest, bring people of diverse backgrounds, so that they will have a fair understanding. Because there is no part of Nigeria that you will not have some elements of other, people within that society. And to take, for instance, the composition of the vigilante itself. Had it been that it's diverse, they would have a fair understanding, the cultural norms and all the rest of the thing. But then again, to further escalate this issue, it brought, just like he said, more questions than answers, in the sense, what makes someone to leave his own home, to go as far as Port Harcourt to go and hunt, which sort of animal, that kind of thing. What are the motivating factors? Then what is the level of synergy? Because all the hunters, they have, kind of organization, they have leadership. So what is the relationship between the organization and the members and, of course, components of Nigerian society? So these are the kind of things that we should be talking to each other so that issues of this nature will not even happen, so that when you are traveling from point A, because the Constitution guarantees freedom of movement to even own properties in any part of this country, so long as you can afford it lawfully. So why don't we work on this aspect to make sure that Nigerians are given sense of belonging? Because the staying power of the Nigerian state is not the mineral resources, it is the human resources. Do we take advantage of that, give everybody a sense of belonging so that he or she can contribute and see himself or see herself as her brother's keepers? And the starting point is even our elites. Take, for instance, can you, with all sincerity, tell me that you have a friend in Yobe State? That today, if you find yourself in Katsina, you might not even think of going to a hotel. We keep on building relationship, and the elites are supposed to be doing that so that it will permeate down, to this thing. Because right now, even inside Uromi, there are still Hausa people, going about their businesses. So these are the kind of things we should be talking. And beyond that, I must commend the religious and traditional rulers who have seen their moves and all the rest of them. Beyond condemnation, and even the tone of the condemnation is very, very commendable, except for some lone voices that do not even have, full grasp of what is going on. It's quite sad, it's quite unfortunate, but I think it is a wake-up call, and so far so good. The steps being taken. So the Edo State governor, instead, please talk to those people, whoever they are, saying that he's been what is the word I use? Weakling. I think they are the weakling. They are the weakling. Because he has come out as more or less as a responsible leader, and that is how he's supposed to be, with his Kano State counterpart and all other people that lend a helping hand. So we need to support and encourage them so that we will not have the reoccurrence of what happened. And these are the kind of escalating steps that we are talking about. Each and every one of us has a role to play. Give each other greater sense of belonging so that we will not have a repeat of such unfortunate incidents.
Thank you very much, General. Thank you. We all have a role to play in this matter. So let's come to Barrister Alobi now. I still want us to talk about this issue of distrust in the security apparatus in this country. Are there any systemic issues or weaknesses in the security apparatus that you think actually contributed to this incident?
Yeah, that's true. To a large extent. So let me join others in commending the role of the governor. The governor has applied wisdom and problem-solving approach to issues. He has shown compassion and empathy. And this is what a leader should be. This is good leadership. And his counterpart too in Kano too has also reciprocated. And when this issue came up, this incident happened, there was a lot of tension all over the country. There's personal attack and so forth, in the social media. But thank God, we've applied maturity. Today, the tension is dowsing down. And in relation to your question, you see, before then, this is Section 33 of the Constitution states when the level of a person can be taken, somebody can be deprived of his life. And also Section 20 of the Police Act. The Section 33 of the Constitution provides that nobody shall be deprived of his life except on discussion of a sentence of the court. The court find you guilty and say maybe you die by firing squad or whatever. Then again, on Section 20 of the Police Act to when an officer is saying to suppress insurrection, mutiny or riot. In that case, or when somebody, a suspect, is one kind of an offense, he found guilty, be committed, maybe sent to imprisonment less than 7 years. And then it try to escape. The police have a right to gun him down or to take his life. Under these circumstances, these volunteers have no right at all under the law to have taken the life of this innocent person, whether they were traveling from whatever part of the country. They don't have that right under the law. And that goes to also to the fact that the security agencies, the police in particular, are supposed to regulate, provide rules of engagement and code of conduct for the vigilante. Because for them, if not, you see, when giving power, if that power is not checked, can be abused. And that's what has happened now. If they were that rules of engagement and code of conduct, and they were made, given that training to not abuse their powers, what they ought to do. Even if they found this people with arms, maybe like illegal arms, of course in the country there, firearms provide for 3 categories of arms. Protected firearms, which only Mr. President can approve license, then the double barrel or string gun, which personal arms, and the then gun. You know the type of guns they were carrying, arms they were carrying, that had to be proved through investigation. But if they did that, the highest thing they could do, call the police. And if they did call the police, then how was the situation managed by the police? How did they manage the situation? Did they interrogate the people to find out where they were coming from, their intention, and so on, where they were going to, what kind of arms they were carrying, and that what happened? Why should they hand them over to the vigilante, or when the police were invited to the scene? These are all questions that should be asked. So, on your question in terms of trust is earned. You see, today, ethical values of each profession have been bastardized. Like my friends, the lawyer will know that in law school, if you don't pass professional ethics, you can never graduate as a lawyer. It's key, professional ethics. My alma mater, Suka says, found worthy in learning and in character. Their character. So the police and other security agencies have that trust is no longer there. Now the people now believe, since the police may not handle this thing where they ought to handle it, and even if it goes to court, the court and so forth. So that trust deficit is there, and it's affecting the way people respond to situations. They believe that maybe if they take them to the police, or if the police invited, they will not do the right thing and so forth. But that is not good enough. So the police also and security agencies should build that trust, and the citizens also have confidence in their police, because you see, life is based on the principle of reciprocity. If you each understand that the police need the citizens need the police, and law has no value if it's not enforced to man and society. So I think these police and security agencies should work on that. How do you win the hearts of the citizens? How do you win the hearts of the citizens? It's through your conduct and behavior, attitude. Are you doing your job? Some people feel they don't do their job in line with that moral attitude, ethical value, professional values. So I think it's very, very important. And now, what lessons have we learned? The government of the state, the Nigerian police force, other security services, the military. What lessons have we learned? Like General talk about issue of ethnic animosity. It's not good enough for us. That prejudice, people and give some names, calling this Nyamri, Kobo, this and so forth. It's not good enough. We're Nigerians, serious of us Nigerians. Our constitution says freedom of movement. So I think we should try to build that bonding, loving spirit. Whatever a Nigerian is, love every Nigerian. And if we do that, I think this question of suspicion and fear, animosity and hatred will overcome it. So it is now what lessons have we learned from this? But the government, the federal government, what lessons have the police and security agencies learned? What lessons have the various government learned? These are things we ask ourselves. How have we done? What has happened now? How can we prevent future occurrence? Because it has happened. It has happened.
Precisely. That's what I want to Dr. Kabir Adamu, because before we even look at how to deal, with the takeaways, with the issues that this incident, has thrown up, let us look at, because right now there seems to be a genuine empathy coming from, the office of the governor of the state. I mean, by extension, probably the people of Edo State. There's that genuine empathy, and they've tried to reach out. But you discover that the people that will fan the embers of reprisal will not come from Edo State. there are other people who probably don't even know what is happening. So in this wise, you are the risk management expert. What more far-reaching, actions can the state and all Nigerians take, to prevent reprisal risk?
I can answer your question with 3 words. Improve public security. That is the elephant in the room. Kasim earlier on mentioned the circumstances in Uromi that perhaps may have contributed to the heinous incident. Public security had deteriorated to a point where the people were incensed. And this is a common element, unfortunately, across Nigeria. Yesterday night, I was called around 8 p.m., Sabon Birni in Sokoto. The gunmen had raided Sabon Birni. They had killed about 9 persons and kidnapped an unknown number of persons. There is no part of the country that you don't hear elements of the deterioration of public security. And this is something that has happened over a period. This administration is doing a lot to address that. But until we reach a circumstance where lives and property are protected to a point where, as a Nigerian, I do not feel the obligation to protect myself beyond what the public security is offering me, then frankly, these types of incidents will continue to emerge from time to time. So the answer in simple terms is, how do we improve public security? At the last count, and I'm being very conservative here, there are 29 ministries, departments, and agencies that are contributing to public security. In the budget for 2025, more than 3 trillion naira is devoted to security. When we deconstructed the budget and picked virtually from every aspect of the budget, we arrived at almost 6 trillion naira devoted to security. There is no other sector of the economy that is getting near that. Health is not getting near that. Nothing is getting near that. So as a people, we need to hold the security departments to account. And the only way we can do that is to ensure, especially the National Assembly, plays its role. The 3 elements of the role of the National Assembly: legislation, budgeting, and then oversight. There are committees that have been set up across the Senate and the House of Rep that have responsibility for these 3 functions. They need to wake up to the call, to look closely and ensure, because all along in our conversations up until now, we were focusing on the executive arm of government, but we're in a democracy. Yeah, there are 3 arms of government. They all have responsibilities. The legislature would need to play a role. In fact, I don't think it is out of place if we call on the legislature to set up an investigative parliamentary committee to look into this issue as a way of addressing the bigger issue of the failure of public security. They are on recess now. They're going to resume. When they do, I expect them to speak on this issue. I've heard the Deputy Senate President speak on it, and he's mentioned something like that. There are so many issues involved. In the first place, why do we have a proliferation of vigilante groups across the country? Why are they not being regulated? Just like Barrister Lawrence mentioned, they are to be subsumed under the Nigerian police force. So why has the Nigerian police force not acted in enough to ensure that these vigilantes are playing their role and supporting public security? The way vigilantes have emanated, across the country, not properly trained, their weaponry. I doubt if there's any vigilante in the country that has an armory for keeping weaponry. I doubt if they have rules of engagement, if their codes of conduct have been codified. So what is the Nigerian police force waiting for? And if, for instance, they've not done it, why hasn't the parliament ensured that they do it? Because that's what our democratic system allows in that. So when you ask me the responsibilities that each of us can play, these are some of the responsibilities. But then I wouldn't want to close this statement without also mentioning our roles as individuals, especially parents. We do have a role. Especially the value system that we incorporate in our kids to understand, for instance, their civic responsibilities, obeying the law, and things like that. Then what of, General did mention this, hunters. I can answer his question when he says he doesn't understand why hunters will move from the north. I come from Sokoto, and in Kebbi State, as an example, that you have, I think, probably the most hunters in Nigeria embedded in that state. I do know they move around the country to hunt in different locations. I do not know the dynamics of hunting within the south-south, but I do know, like I said, they move across various parts of the country. And there is a association of hunters. I've forgotten what they are called. This particular hunters, were they registered under that? From the little that I've heard from security sources, the deceased persons claim that they had licenses for the weapons that they had on them. Were they members of an association? What is the association doing at the moment in terms of advocacy for their members? Because I mean,
yes, I think I read also that the association had written to the state governor and had asked members, their members, to be calm and not to take laws into their hands. I think I read somewhere.
But beyond that, the point I was trying to bring out is we need to be realistic. As a risk manager, the first thing you do is to identify threats. And at the moment, it would be foolhardy for anyone to say he or she does not recognize the animosity, the ethnic hatred,
Exactly.
the profiling, the stigmatization that exists in Nigeria. It is a fact. And it's
And that's what I'm even asking.
The vigilante groups, do they have that the skill to be able to identify threats? Just because these kind of incidents that happened and could have been prevented if they had been well trained.
Exactly.
Would you say that these communities, these vigilantes, do they actually pose a threat or benefits to the Nigerian communities?
So I think we need to start from where they evolved in the same place, in the first place. They were evolved because there is a failure in public security. A significant number of them emerged to support public security within their domains. But they are not supposed to be in isolation. They are supposed to be embedded within the federal security structure. I know Kasim did mention that the State Assembly has backed the creation by law, but I think that's a lacuna in our constitution. A constitutional lawyer will need to come and clarify this to us. The constitution says only federal security agencies. That's clear. But then you now have states creating laws to back the creation of vigilantes across the federation. You have it in Kano, you have it in Lagos, you have everywhere in the country. So I'm not sure from the constitutional law point of view what the position is in terms of that, but this is what the constitution says and this is what is happening. So I think the National Assembly would need to step in to clarify this current position. The decentralization of security should have been done yesterday. The law at the moment has not decentralized security, but the practice at the moment has decentralized security. So to answer your question, the proliferation has happened in an organic manner without proper supervision by the appropriate agency, which is the Nigerian Police Force. To an extent, the Nigerian Police Force has stepped in the case of Amotekun as an example. There were discussions and then eventually Amotekun was created. But then the requisite functions of ensuring, just like General said, that these organizations, the vigilantes, reflect the various dynamics within the location where they exist, gender, ethnicity, name it, I doubt. Even in the Northwest, as an example, in Zamfara State, you have Fulanis complaining that they are not represented in the vigilantes, even though Fulanis are part and parcel of the societies in the Northwest. So the same thing with the South as an example. All the ethnic groups should be represented, if at all the vigilantes are meant to serve public security. So because the police has not played that role, and their training has not been sufficiently conducted, I think I wouldn't be wrong if I say they do not have the requisite skill to identify threats in the manner that they are supposed to identify. At the risk of being political, I visited Edo State under the immediate past government, and I was quite impressed. Again, I'm a professional. This is not a political statement. I was impressed with the structure that I found there. I found a command and control center that even in New York, was almost equivalent to what I found in New York. I hear that structure has been dismantled. Now, I don't know the reason. Perhaps the reason is to create a better one. If that's the reason, then yes, I'm happy and I'll clap for the current administration. But if the reason is not to create one, then I'll urge Kasim to tell the incumbent governor to go back to that command and control center. It had all the elements of a command and control center. Response time could have been speedier if that command and control center was effective. I'm answering your question in terms of the capabilities of a vigilante group. The command and control center that I saw in Edo State was receiving information from the field in a manner that was speedy, and that information was processed in seconds. And then the idea of processing that information is to inform the relevant security department to deploy to that location. Now, that is how a public security system should be. Supported by the appropriate vigilante network. At the moment, I'm not sure if that is in place. So I'm hoping that because Edo State is a government in transition, it's a new government, a lot of things would need to be set up. I'm hoping that at the time it has established, it will be able to have a command and control center
Dr. Kabir,
that is
yes,
effective.
yes, thank you. I know you have so much to offload. The essence we're having our conversation really is to find a way to douse tensions and to help those families that are mourning at this moment understand that everybody is with them and no one has supported what has happened. And we know that some of the de-escalation moves that we're doing, you understand, or the escalation process may not even be physical. It's done on social media. If you go through the social media at the moment, you'll find all sort of ethnic provocations and all that. And that's why I want, Mr. Febo, how can we speak to our youths, to understand that, look, this is not right?
Well, let me quickly, first of all, provide an answer to the issue of the control center in Edo. That is under the supervision of the police. The state government built a control center, a data and control center and all that. For those who run it are the federal police. There's some level of collaboration in terms of information gathering, intelligence gathering, sharing of information amongst all the component parts of the security platform. Secondly, you see, there is quite a number of lapses everywhere in our security architecture in terms of both the players, that is the workforce, and even people having job satisfaction when it comes to carrying out their responsibilities. Edo is not going to be an exception, but the incident of the Uromi is not, I don't want to preempt investigation, it's not entirely a vigilante issue. I think the locals just overpowered whatever vigilante that are there to carry out this handling. It's a mob action because the Edo Security Corps is well organized, well structured, and they work hand in hand with the police. They are not so much autonomous as to take laws into their hands. They are very much with the police, the state security service, the Nigerian, the military, and all of that. And their responsibility is essentially to collect information, get intelligence, and all of that. And oftentimes you see that even the kidnappers, they are afraid of the vigilantes because oftentimes they tell you that they have charms that is anti-gun. So where there are issues, vigilante officers would chase kidnappers into the forest. They will be chasing them. And those will be shooting them, but they will still be chasing them. So that has also given the locals some level of confidence that, okay, when they see vigilante on the road, they even feel more comfortable than the Nigerian police, so to speak. And so these are part of the issues in the Nigerian. Just like he said, there's need for constitutional tinkering so that you are able to plug in a few loose ends to get a more proactive, response to issues of insecurity. Back to your question of the social media, the youths, and what have you. The society has become heavily polarized when it comes to issue of social media. The news out there are not verifiable by any platform, by anybody. So, and that also will fuel mob action, oftentimes. What we need to do, both at the state level and at the federal level, is for us to inject new ideas into our national orientation engagement. There has to be some kind of mass advocacy. Some of our speakers here have spoken this, but it has to be deliberate and it has to be conscious. We have to know that this is where we are getting at and this is what we need to do. No amount of resources is too much for us to carry out mass advocacy and reorientation of minds. I tell people oftentimes that the problem of Nigeria and Nigerians is not so much about system. It's about attitude you bring into that system. Some people say you have to build strong institutions. But the strong institutions will be run by individuals. If the individuals are also not strong or not following the ethics of what a responsible citizen should be,
They don't have the right mindset.
yeah, then it becomes a problem. So there's no amount of advocacy that is too much, no amount of reorientation of minds that is too much. We have all been victims of all kinds of insecurity crisis in Edo State. My cousin was killed, local government chairman was killed by kidnappers. My uncle was kidnapped. 7 days later, when they released him, he died. There are quite a number. The one that was caught and they were asking him questions. The guy who caught him told him that he's the number 2 to Shekau. He showed him pictures. Said, look at it. This is Shekau. This is number 2. We're coming down this way to come and look for money. So you see, there are quite a number of all of these issues. So, but we need to consistently, consciously and deliberately, carry out, attitudinal reorientation of minds and ensure that we are able, less stigmatization. There is so much stigmatization, so much of ethnic profiling and all of that, such that little things like this trigger.
What do you think the role of the community leaders, is in this particular incident? Because you said something that the vigilante were probably overrun by the locals.
The locals, yeah.
So where's the role of the community leaders now?
Well,
because it's very, very crucial.
I will give you an instance. They said when it comes to enthroning a king in communities, oftentimes the oracles speak when they pour divination. In Yoruba land, it is Ifa divination. In some other places, they have a shrine they visit and they say, oracle will say, this is the person. But a man told me, an elderly man about 94 years old, I went to interview him. He said, the oracles of this day, they know the color of dollar and they know the color of naira. So that has eroded the value system in terms of installing or enthroning a king. And because it's been politicized, because of our love for crass materialism, you are not going to get the honest truth from persons who emerge from those kind of polluted arrangement. So it is going to still be a function of continuous advocacy for attitudinal change. Because there are quite a number of communities that have intercommunal clashes. Look at the one that is happening in the Osun State, where hundreds of people have been killed. It is not that they don't speak the same language. It is not that they don't know themselves, but little issues. And so for us, Edo, just like he said, is a cosmopolitan conclave. And because Edo is like a community in transition, not necessarily because of political transition, even it is an artery, it's a gateway to a lot of places. You are coming to the north, is a gateway. You are going to the east, is a gateway. You are going to Yoruba land, is a gateway. You must pass through Edo. That's why we call it the heartbeat of Nigeria. And so, for that kind of positioning, it ought to be an advantage to us in terms of economic well-being. But it's become a hotbed for all kinds of antisocial and insecurity issues. Because these persons come, kidnappers come, there are too many exit routes here and there, they escape. When they want to come and operate, they escape. So, it has to be a collaboration between government at the state level and at the federal level, on the one hand. Then the community It's a function of the community policing idea that informed this issue of vigilante and all of that. And their own duties, responsibilities are limited, even by the laws that set them up, actually. They can't take laws into their hand. They work hand in hand with police. They give issues. Like in this incident of Uromi, if they had arrested those persons and they handed them over to the police, all of these discussions will not,
Precisely.
the manner of the killings and all of that is what is provoking
That
this
is
kind
what
of
that is mob action.
Yeah.
Jungle justice. Brigadier General Kukashika, I mean, mob action is obviously expression of an innate, frustration, and we have all said frustration probably with the system. But how is our judicial system also complicit in all of this?
Is it actually frustration? And I alluded to the relationship among the components of Nigerian society when I was speaking earlier. And I was wondering why, yes, it is good that you scare your environment, it's good to defend yourself and all the rest of it. But taking law into your hand in the most despicable manner, the way they did, it speak more than frustration. And I believe all the previous three speakers alluded to the relationship. And they have just mentioned stereotyping and the rest of them, that there is deep-seated hatred and animosity for you to condescend so low, to mete out such despicable punishment to a fellow human being.
But it could also,
I don't know.
Sorry, it could also be that people feel that, look, when we hand over these people to the law enforcement agents, I mean, it takes a long time for justice.
We should stop providing excuses for these excesses. It is beyond frustration. There must be something far beyond frustration for them to have done what they did. Then the question is why? And that is why we are here. And that is why when we are talking about the escalation, I must commend the parents of these victims and their relations for being so courageous enough, for being so patient enough. Because if it were in the early 2000s, by now the country would have been on fire, particularly the northern part of the country. But here we are. Nigerians have done commendably well. And I think we need to build on that. And he talked about orientation, attitudinal change and all the rest. And that is where we are missing it. 25 years ago, when Nigeria decided to adopt democratic system of governance, having coming out, from almost 30 years of military administration, definitely you are supposed to. Yes, Kasim has made mention about institutions and the people leading institutions.
Can I just ask you to pause, please?
Okay.
Let's just take a short break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Of course, welcome back to the conversation. Just before we went on break, Brigadier General Kukashika was speaking to my question, and I wanted to know if our judicial system, was also part of this problem that is, forcing people to take laws into their hands.
Well, I think on a lighter note, before we go back into that conversation, I want you to finish your sentence. Did you call me Major or you?
Brigadier General.
Okay, I thought you were Major. You had the I thought you called Major General so that you give me the arrears of my pension.
Just call him General.
So it's all right. It's understandable. Yes, I was talking about institutions and all the rest, the role of judiciary. Yes, Kabiru accused us of focusing more on executive, and we talk about the legislative arm. Now you have talked about the other arm, which is the judiciary. And I would like to look at it in conjunction with the criminal justice system in the country. But before I touch that, I was talking about the issue of attitudinal change and all the rest. 25 years ago, we all agree in this country we prepared the democratic system of governance, and any time you come out from a complex situation like when Nigeria was coming out from military administration or rule, there must be conscious and deliberate conflict sensitivity programs, part of which is the reorientation of the Nigerian society to understand that in democratic governance there are issues of bureaucracies and all the rest of the thing. Failure to do that, that was why we have had the ethno-religious crisis of the early 2000s. You know what happened, in those days. And we could have borrowed a leaf to what we have done with the armed forces of Nigeria, because there was a deliberate reorientation program from 2000 to 2015. Initially, it started with ONAT, reorientation, additional change, and all the rest. And this is what we should have done, because I was asking, how can you orient in isolation with the Nigerian society? Because you are part of the Nigerian society. So there is need, and that issue would have been captured in respect of the issue of collective responsibility, which Dr. Kabiru has said that each and every one of us has a role to play. So that all these institutions, they will have little or not much to do, because an average Nigerian is alive to his or her civic duties and responsibilities, so much as we talk about rights and privileges. Now, coming back to the criminal justice system, first and foremost is just issue of synergy, understanding. We have had instances where things were allowed, because of lack of, take for instance the issue of the insurgency, the Boko Haram. When it started in 2009, the then president drafted the military. They did a marvelous job to the extent of clearing and, arresting the ringleader and handing him over. And unfortunately, he was extrajudicially killed, and 15 years on, we are paying the consequences for that singular act. Because had it been that the system was working, definitely those that are responsible with the next action or process would have taken action, arraigning him before a competent law court, and of course met out whatever. Definitely he would have been found guilty, whatever punishment, be it death sentence, life, or even typically the way they do, because there were instances, people that have committed heinous crimes. You are just given 7 years jail term, and somehow, even before the expiration of the jail term, based on technicalities, they were released into the community and they are given chieftaincy title. Now, these are the issues. Now, when you talk about that, yes, he also talked about lack of confidence in the security. Yes, but it is not just the security, even the judicial arm of the system, simply because to a large extent, with due respect to them, people tend to take law into their hands because they are not so sure they will find justice. Unlike in the past, that it is. Before we talk about the fourth arm of the realm, the judiciary is always there for the common man, because it's impartial, it's blind to all these extraneous variables. So, and unfortunately, it is not the case now. So, we cannot pinpoint certain instances, so to speak. But I think there is so much to be done, or there is so much to be improved upon in terms of how they live up to expectations. So that, because all these issues that we are seeing hinge on the fact, the issue of justice. Because had it been that there is always justice, people will hardly, even if they do, the system will catch up with them, and the other people will have greater sense of belonging that, yes, I know that the judiciary is always there for me and for others. I will not dare do these things, but even if I do, I know I will not go far.
Okay, thank you, General. Okay, thank you very much. So no doubt there is need for a reform, especially now. Let's go back to this issue of this vigilante now, CP Alobi. Do you think the vigilantes in this country, they need to be regulated? There is need for them to be regulated and monitored to prevent this similar occurrence in the future.
Before I respond to your question, then permit me to make some comment about issue of character, which Fegbai mentioned, attitude.
Okay.
This Section 14 of the Nigerian Constitution provides that the constitutional duty of every Nigerian citizen is to assist security agencies in maintaining of law and order. And Section 14b says that the primary purpose of government, security and welfare of the citizens, if you just oppose the two sections together, it's the security is a duty of all Nigerians, both the government and citizens and security agencies. But then, the attitude is key and central. In Nigeria today, what are our core values, national core values? We don't have any. You cannot say these are our core values, the Nigerian core values.
Most Nigerians are not even aware of their responsibility.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's why he talked about public lifetime education. In fact, for me, the police should establish a program.
Okay.
Because crime prevention, prevention is better than cure. Crime prevention on those issues to educate the citizens of their role, what and what constitute crime, what and what they should not do. It also helps make the society safe and secure. So crime prevention strategy is also, you can advocacy will help in making the society safe and secure. So even national orientation, for instance, they are invisible. From my own, they're not something to be visible. National orientation should carry attitude not change. Nigerians should know their role. But Nigerians today, like my colleagues on the civil society, always concerned about human right. Where there's a right, there's corresponding obligation of the citizens. The Nigerians are not concerned. They don't know about the obligations and duties. They don't know. Just right. So I think we need to carry out aggressive orientation to educate the Nigerians that they have a duty as citizens. Even from the home, from the family parenting, from the school. Like I mentioned my alma mater, it's a fine worthy in character and learning. The university, the institutions, how are they inculcating those values in their students? A young boy just leaves the family, going to the university, he doesn't know anything. The call group will just kind of corner him one side, tell him we can do this, you protect you, if you have whatever result you want to give, you want to make first class, and so forth. What are the values that the university is inculcating, or the secondary schools are inculcating their students, even the family? How many parents will sit down and inculcate values in their children? We're concerned about to make money and power. So I think we need that orientation. We need to have a national core values that will help Nigerians, from primary school, make it a compulsory course in all institutions, learning these core values and inculcating them. And we let us live by those values. If we live by those values, we will transform the Nigerian society. And the leadership at all levels, not just we leaders saying we just being leader to control money and power. How impactful is our life to the people we rule? Our character, what are we there to serve the people or just to impoverish them and loot and so forth? The young ones are watching us, like you mentioned in the question of social media. If we carry on this orientation, let the youth know that they have a role. Because if today's Nigeria is not fixed, their future is very, very bleak. Very bleak. So you have to understand that they have a role to play to build a very safe and secure environment where Nigerians can feel confident in any part of the country. All this ethnic stigmatization, ethnic animosity is not helping us. We know the unity is not there. We're not united. If we must be those core values, our national anthem, when no man is oppressed, but people are being oppressed. We're not living in line with our anthem. So I think we need to develop a national core values. And I want
and this is the responsibility of everyone. That is the traditional rulers, the political leaders, even the religious leaders.
Everybody, it's a cultural responsibility of everybody. Even parenting in the family. What are the parents doing? How many parents will sit down with their children in the morning and maybe say prayers together and build some moral values, truthfulness, service, commitment, and all those things that will build a moral society. So the society is a responsibility of the government. As I said, what lessons have we learned? The government itself. As back to your question, issue of vigilante. Vigilante were meant, like Dr. Kabiru said earlier, our constitution says there shall be only one police force, section 214 of the constitution, and that's the ground norm. And the constitution says any other law that is not in line with the constitution is null and void. But now state governors, it is good to establish laws to fix vigilante, but the vigilante must be in line with the laws of the country. They are there to complement for the police, other security agencies. But if they now begin to if they don't begin to work against the rule, if they don't feel that they are not independent, they need to be fixed, they need to be controlled by the police. Like I mentioned in my initial statement, I said rules of engagement and code of conduct. You have that rules of engagement, code of conduct, how, and you'll be training. Because an untrained security person is a threat to the society and a threat to the institution. Understand? If you now train his capacity, rules of engagement, his professional conduct, ethical conduct, you lead by that, you are dealing to the people. You engage yourself to the people.
Okay.
So I think it is, like I said, what lessons have we learned? The government, the citizens, also what lessons have we learned? The police. One of the ways of crime prevention is to educate the citizens of their role in how to prevent crime, and by so doing, that will be in line with Section 24E of the Constitution. So I think we need a lot to do. The media too. The media has a lot to do.
We all need a lot to do.
We have a lot to do. This is our country.
Thank you so
we
much.
We have to make our country safe and secure for all of us.
Thank you so much, CP. Now, as we begin to, wind up this conversation, Dr. Kabir, what do you think are the key takeaways from this conversation concerning this incident? What lesson do you think we need to all imbibe?
Like I said at the beginning, public security. Everything we're doing.
Okay, just a moment. I think we need to join Dele Atobi for an update on the Edo State Tribunal judgment concerning the Edo election. Dele, give us an update.
Thank you, Demola and Claire. The truth of the matter is that the Edo State governorship election was conducted on the 21st of September 2024. And the APC and its governorship candidate, Senator Monday Okpebholo, was declared as the winner of that election. And if you take a look at the Electoral Act and the Constitution, election issues are sui generis. That is, they are on the class of their own. And taking a look at Section 285, subsection 6, it says that tribunal should not
Okay. I think we are having some challenge over there. So, he's back?
And that is what is being fulfilled here today. And they are going to deliver that judgment today, because 3 petitions were filed before the Election Petition Tribunal, the Edo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal. And you will recall that tribunal was sitting in Benin, Edo State capital. But on 27th of January, that tribunal had to relocate to Abuja. And no information to that effect, no reason to that effect was given. And that is why the 3-man panel is sitting here in Abuja at the National Judicial Institute. And that has always been the issue, especially when there is security issues surrounding the tribunal, the admin of the tribunal. And if you take a look at the result of the election as at that time, because whenever you are bringing a petition before a tribunal, you must equally tell tribunal the results of the election. The APC governorship candidate as at that election had 291,667 votes, and his closer rival had of the PDP, who is one of the petitioners today, and had 247,655 votes. So these are the things to be challenged today. All the petitioners are saying that the election as at that level was not conducted in compliance with the Electoral Act and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So it is for the 3-man panel or tribunal to decide in the next few hours. The court hall is filled to the maximum, and that is what is on ground as at the time we are discussing. Yes, let me equally inform that
there was the issue of the fact that fake news, that the result of the election was that the tribunal matter was had to be is out. No, it cannot be true. It cannot be true. They've debunked that, and we'll now see when the judgment is given by the people, by the tribunal and three-man panel. They will give the judgment. They adjourned on the 3rd of March, and the tribunal will now be handling the matter today. That is the judgment that we are expecting in the next few hours.
Okay, thank you so much, Dele, for that update. We expect to hear the judgment later from you. Thank you. We'll come back to the studio. And before we went to Dele to give for an update, I asked you the takeaways from this conversation this morning. What lesson do you think we need to learn from this incident?
I mean, in simple terms, I mentioned public security, the need to improve public security, and the fact that every action has a reaction. As Nigerians, we need to acknowledge that. I'm sure those who meted out that jungle justice did not anticipate the reaction that will follow it. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have done what they did. So that, for me, should be something that all of us as a people should realize. When we are going to act, let's think of the consequences of that action. In conclusion, I would also say we would need to do a review, do the man in the mirror situation, and just like we said, all of us, what lessons have been learned. And as human beings, when we take note of those lessons, what corrective actions are we going to take to ensure there is no reoccurrence?
Okay, Mr. Okpebholo, I'm just wondering, is there any form of extra measures, to provide some form of security, even for, the northerners in Edo State?
They are Nigerians.
We know, but
I don't want to call them northerners.
Yes.
They are Nigerians.
Yes.
The ownership structure of this country must, be consciously looked into. We don't have to be saying north, west, south, this and all that. Nigerians are Nigerians. That's why I personally don't support or subscribe to the idea when you are filling the form. Even when we need Edo State, there's a place of origin, a local government of origin, all those things should play a background.
Yes, but within the context of our conversation.
No, presently and before now, we have very robust relationship with other people who are not from Edo State, who are resident in Edo State. I can tell you that for free.
So are you assuring the safety of everybody?
Everybody who lives in Edo State, has always been treated like Edo people. Because we need one another, to advance the cause of humanity. There are people who are consistently known for providing yam in the market. There are those who are known for providing onions. So it's what they call symbiotic relationship. You are not to yourself. A society is made up of different kinds of people. But what is key is the fact that we should love ourselves.
We should love
and
ourselves.
See ourselves as Nigerians.
Yes, just the last word from General Kukashika. Yes. What should our youths in the north be doing? What's the behavior?
I think it is not just the youth. I think it's a collective responsibility. And just like I wrote on my social media handle, I think we can do better. And it's a wake-up call that we have learned lesson. And of course, commendably, we have seen a radical departure, from previous instances and the responses. So I would rather appeal that we keep on improving on all those things so that we can know, let there be progression in terms of the relationship among the components of Nigerian society. But most importantly, the leaders, various leaders, be it political, religious, traditional, and community leaders have a role to play so that we improve on the relationship among the components of Nigerian society.
Okay,
all
we
right,
all have a role to play.
Brigadier General Sani Kukashika Usman, former Nigerian Army spokesman. I'd like to thank you very much, and I'd like to also thank Dr. Okpebholo Adamo, Security and Management Risk Expert, and also CEO of BISCOM Communications
Security and
Security and
Intelligence
Intelligence Limited, yes. Kasima Febua, who's a political stalwart. I'd like to appreciate you,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
And
It's
of
a
course,
pleasure.
Barrister Lawrence Alobi, MON, I must add that,
Thank you.
former Commissioner of Police, FCT Command, Abuja. Thank you very much, sir, for your
He
time.
didn't ask that he's a polyglot. He speaks 16 Nigerian languages. That is the authentic Nigerian.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm also a true Nigerian. You don't know how many languages I speak. Yeah.
Well, Nigerians.
All right, that's
I
good.
don't know Mullah, whether he can confidently call somebody in Katsina and sleep in Katsina now. I have hope.
All right. All right. Say Anjima. See you next time.
All right, thank you so
Did I get
much.
it right?
You did, okay.
All right.
Well, I'm Ademola Adio. Thanks for joining us. See you again tomorrow.
And I'm Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak. Bye-bye for now.